The crystal towers of Seraphor caught the light of 3 suns and turned the sky into rivers of gold. Yoon Hana stood at her window and watched the floating gardens drift past like sleeping clouds. It was beautiful. It had always been beautiful. But today, the beauty felt like a cage. She was getting married to a human. The thought made her stomach twist. She had seen humans only in recordings. They were small creatures with soft skin and short lives. They bled easily. They died easily. And yet somehow, they had spread across 100 worlds in less than 2 centuries. The Valori had watched them with growing fear. These beings fought wars against themselves for reasons no one could understand. They built weapons that could crack planets. They smiled while doing terrible things. And now one of them was coming to marry her father. The old emperor had explained it simply. The humans were too dangerous to fight and too powerful to ignore. A marriage alliance would bind their species together. It would prevent war. Hana was the price of peace. She had agreed because she had no choice. A princess did not have choices. A princess had duties. The human ship arrived at midday. It was ugly and gray, nothing like the elegant Valori vessels. Hana watched it land from her balcony. Her hands were cold. Her heart beat too fast. She wondered what kind of monster would step out of that ship. The doors opened. A man walked down the ramp. Hana blinked. She had expected armor. She had expected weapons. She had expected a beast pretending to be civilized. Instead, she saw a thin man in simple clothes. He had dark hair and tired eyes. He moved slowly, carefully, like someone who did not want to frighten anyone. When he reached the bottom of the ramp, he stopped and bowed so deeply that his head nearly touched his knees. The Valori guards looked at each other. They had expected something different, too. His name was Kang Taeho. He spoke softly, almost too softly to hear. His Valori was imperfect, but careful. He apologized for his mistakes. He thanked everyone for their patience. He smiled at servants and guards the same way he smiled at nobles. Hana watched him through the welcome ceremony. He did not look dangerous. He looked tired. He looked sad. He looked like a man who had lost something important and was still searching for it. That night, they had dinner together for the first time. Hana sat across from him at a long table covered with food he probably could not eat. The Valori did not consume the same things as humans. She had ordered human dishes prepared, but she did not know if they were correct. He ate everything. He ate strange vegetables that had been cooked wrong. He ate meat that was too raw. He ate bread that had become hard as stone. He ate it all and smiled and said it was wonderful. She knew he was lying, but she also knew he was being kind. After dinner, he asked if he could see the gardens. Hana took him outside. The night air was warm and sweet with the smell of flowers that glowed in the darkness. He walked slowly, stopping to look at each plant like it was a treasure. "We do not have things like this on Earth anymore," he said quietly. "Not in most places. We burned too much, broke too much." He touched a glowing flower with one finger. "This is very precious." Hana did not know what to say. She had been taught that humans destroyed everything they touched. But this man touched the flower like it was made of dreams. The weeks passed. The wedding happened. It was a formal ceremony without love or warmth. They spoke the words. They signed the documents. They became husband and wife-in-law, but nothing else. They lived in separate rooms. They met for meals and public events. They played their roles perfectly. The alliance was working. The humans and Valori began trading. Ships crossed between their territories. Peace seemed possible, but Hana found herself watching her husband more and more. He was strange. He refused to argue, even when Valori nobles insulted him to his face. One lord called him a tamed beast during a council meeting. Taeho only smiled and nodded and said nothing. Hana felt angry for him, but he seemed unbothered. He spent his free time in the old garden behind the palace. It had been abandoned for years. The plants were dead. The fountains were dry. But Taeho worked there every day, pulling weeds and carrying water and planting seeds. Hana watched him from her window. He worked alone. He hummed songs she did not recognize. Sometimes he talked to the plants as if they could hear him. One evening, she went to him. He was kneeling in the dirt, his fine clothes ruined. He looked up and smiled, like her presence was a gift. "Princess," he said, "would you like to help?" She had never touched dirt in her life. She was royalty. But something in his eyes made her kneel beside him. He showed her how to dig small holes, how to place seeds gently, how to cover them with soil. "Why do you do this?" she asked. "You are an ambassador. You have servants. You do not need to work in the dirt." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "When I was young, I destroyed many things. I broke things that cannot be fixed. I hurt people who cannot be healed," pressed a seed into the earth. "Now I try to grow things instead. It does not fix what I did, but it helps me remember why living matters." Hana looked at him, really looked at him. She saw the scars on his hands for the first time, small white lines crossing his fingers and palms, the marks of old wounds. "What did you do?" she asked. "Before you became an ambassador?" He smiled, but his eyes were empty. "I was what humans call a soldier." She had heard that word before. Soldiers were fighters, killers, destroyers. But this man planted flowers and bowed too deeply and ate terrible food without complaint. "Are all humans like you?" she asked. He shook his head slowly. "No, I became this way because I was not always like this. I had to choose to be gentle." He looked at the seeds in the ground. "Being gentle is harder than being violent. Violence is easy. Peace takes strength." Hana did not fully understand, but she felt something shift inside her. This man was not what she had expected. He was not what anyone had expected. She did not know what he really was, but she wanted to find out. That night, for the first time, she did not think of him as a monster. She thought of him as a mystery. And mysteries, she had always believed, were meant to be solved. The seeds he planted that day would grow into something beautiful. But neither of them knew that yet. Neither of them knew that war was coming. Neither of them knew that everything was about to change. For now, there was only the garden, the stars, and two strangers learning to see each other clearly. 6 months passed like water through fingers. Hana did not notice how quickly the days moved. She did not notice how often she found herself walking to the garden. She did not notice how much she had started to enjoy her husband's company. But she noticed other things. She noticed that Tejo never slept well. She could see it in his eyes each morning. Dark circles. Distant stares. Sometimes she passed his room at night and heard sounds. Not screaming. Something worse. Quiet whimpering. The sounds of a man fighting battles in his dreams. She noticed that he flinched at sudden noises. A door slamming. A guard dropping a weapon. Thunder. Any loud sound made him freeze for just a moment. His body would go stiff. His eyes would go sharp. Then he would force himself to relax, and he would smile. He would pretend nothing had happened. She noticed that his hands shook sometimes. When he thought no one was watching, when he was tired, when the nightmares had been bad, Hana began to understand that her husband was not simply gentle. He was broken in some way. He had built himself into something soft because the alternative was too painful. She wanted to know more. She needed to know. One night, she used her royal authority to access the human military archives. It took time and favors, but eventually she received a file. A single document containing everything the Velori knew about Kongte-Ho. She read it alone in her room. The lights were dim. The palace was silent. And word by word, her understanding of her husband shattered and rebuilt itself. He had been a soldier, yes. But not just any soldier. He had been one of the most decorated warriors in human history. His record was filled with words she did not want to read. Battles, sieges, massacres. The file described something called the Busan Siege, a city on Earth, surrounded by enemies. Cut off from help. The fighting lasted 3 months. Millions of people died. The buildings burned. The rivers turned red. Kongte-Ho was the only survivor of his unit. 100 soldiers went into the siege. One walked out. Hana's hands trembled as she read the details. He had fought for 90 days without stopping. He had carried wounded soldiers on his back. He had killed so many enemies that they stopped counting. When the siege finally ended, they found him sitting alone in the ruins, covered in blood, staring at nothing. The psychological evaluation was short. Subject appears stable. No signs of violent tendencies. Note: subject has not fired a weapon in 4 years by personal choice. When asked why, subject stated, "I have done enough." Hana closed the file. She felt sick. She felt sad. She felt something else too, something she could not name. The man who planted flowers and ate bad food and bowed to servants had once been a weapon, a force of destruction. He had walked through hell and somehow come out the other side still human. How did someone survive that? How did someone choose to be gentle after experiencing such horror? She did not sleep that night. She kept seeing his face, his tired eyes, his careful smile, the scars on his hands. The next morning, she found him in the garden as usual. He was watering the plants he had grown from seeds, green things now, living things. Proof that broken soil could heal. She sat beside him without speaking. He did not ask questions. He simply handed her a small cup of water and pointed to a plant that needed attention. They worked together in silence. The suns rose higher. The air grew warm. And finally, Hana spoke. "I read your file." Teho's hand stopped moving. He did not look at her. His face became very still. "I am sorry," she said. "I should not have looked without asking." He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "What did you learn? That you were a soldier? A famous one. That you survived things that should have killed you. That you chose to stop fighting." He nodded slowly. His eyes were fixed on the ground. "Do you think less of me now? Now that you know what I did?" Hana thought about the question carefully. "I think I understand you better. You are not gentle because you are weak. You are gentle because you know what happens when people are not gentle." He looked at her then. Really looked at her. His eyes were wet. Not crying. Just close to it. "My wife," he said softly, "you are wiser than I expected." She almost smiled. "My husband, you were kinder than I expected." Something changed between them that day. The distance grew smaller. The walls grew thinner. They were still not in love, but they were something more than strangers. Hana began teaching him about Valori culture. She showed him their meditation practices. She explained their history. She taught him how her people used their psychic abilities to sense emotions. He was a poor student of the psychic arts. Humans had no such gifts. But he tried so hard that she could not help but respect him in return. He taught her about Earth. He told her stories about blue oceans and white mountains. He described foods that made her curious. He recited poetry from human writers who had died centuries ago. One evening, he cooked her a human meal. It took him hours to prepare. The result was strange. The flavors were too strong. The textures were unfamiliar. But she ate every bite because she could see how much effort he had put into it. "How is it?" he asked nervously. "It is. Just search for the right word. Different." He laughed. A real laugh. The first she had heard from him. It was a good sound. Warm and honest. "That is a kind way of saying it is terrible," he said. "Perhaps," she admitted. "But you made it with care. That matters more than taste." He smiled at her. Not the careful diplomatic smile. A real one. And she felt something flutter in her chest that she did not want to examine too closely. That night, a storm rolled across Surafor. Thunder shook the palace. Lightning split the sky. Hana woke to the sounds and could not fall back asleep. She walked through the dark halls, found Teho standing on a balcony. Rain poured down around him. Wind whipped his clothes, but he did not move. He stood perfectly still, face raised to the sky, letting the storm wash over him. She watched him from the doorway. He looked like a statue. He looked like a man facing an old enemy. He looked like someone saying goodbye to ghosts. She did not interrupt. She did not call out. She simply watched until the storm passed, and he finally came inside, soaking wet and trembling. He saw her standing there. For a moment, something raw flickered across his face. Pain, memory, loneliness. Then he smiled and said, "The storms here are beautiful." She nodded. Yes, they are. Neither of them spoke about what she had really seen, but they both knew. And somehow, that knowing brought them closer together. The peace between their peoples was growing stronger. The marriage was working. Everything seemed calm, but far away in the darkness between stars, something terrible was waking up, and it was hungry for war. The warning came at midnight. Hana was sleeping when the alarms began screaming. Red lights flashed through the palace. Voices shouted in the halls. Feet pounded against stone floors. She ran to the window and looked up. The sky was wrong. Instead of 3 peaceful suns, she saw fire. Ships were falling from orbit. Velori ships, burning as they died, and beyond them, blocking out the stars, was a fleet so large it looked like a dark ocean hanging in space. The rock had come. Hana had heard stories about the rock since childhood. They were nightmares given form, a species that lived only for conquest. They did not negotiate. They did not trade. They consumed. Every world they touched became ash and bone. The Velori had stayed far from rock territory. They had hoped distance would keep them safe. They had been wrong. Hana threw on her clothes and ran into the hallway. Servants rushed past her. Guards shouted orders that no one followed. The palace was falling into chaos. She found her father in the throne room. The old emperor looked small and afraid. His advisors surrounded him, all of them talking at once. "We must surrender," one said. "We must flee," said another. "We must fight," said a third. But his voice shook. Her father saw Hana and reached for her hand. "My daughter, I am sorry. I thought I could protect you. I thought I could protect all of us. What is happening?" Hana asked. "How many ships?" "Thousands," a general answered. His face was gray. "Our entire defense fleet was destroyed in minutes. They are landing troops across the planet. The capital will fall within hours." Hana felt her legs go weak. This could not be real. This could not be happening. The Velori were an ancient civilization. They had existed for millions of years. They could not simply end, but the explosions outside said otherwise. "Where is my husband?" she asked suddenly. "Where is Teho?" No one knew. In the chaos, no one had thought about the human ambassador. Hana ran. She did not know where she was going. She just ran through the burning palace, searching for the man she had married without love, but had grown to respect. She found him in their shared quarters. He was standing in front of a closet, staring at something inside. The distant explosions made the floor tremble. "Teho," she said, "we have to go. The rock are here. The palace is falling." He did not turn around. "I know." "Then come. We must escape." "No." She moved closer. She saw what he was looking at. Inside the closet, hidden behind formal clothes, was a suit of black armor. Human military armor. Beside it hung weapons she did not recognize. "You kept them," she whispered. "I could not throw them away." His voice was strange, distant. "Many times. But I could not." "Why?" He finally turned to face her, and Hana felt her breath catch in her throat. His eyes were different. The gentleman she knew was gone. In his place stood someone else. Someone cold. Someone focused. Someone ancient and terrible. "'Cause I always knew this day would come," he said. "I always knew that peace would end. I always knew I would have to become what I was again." Hana took a step back. She was afraid. For the first time since meeting him, she was truly afraid. "What are you going to do?" she asked. "What I was made to do." He reached into the closet and pulled out the black armor. "The rock do not negotiate. They do not stop. They will kill everyone on this planet unless someone stops them first. But you are one man. There are thousands of them, yes?" He began putting on the armor. Each piece locked into place with soft clicks. but they've never fought a human before. Not really. The Valori do not fight. Humans do. We have fought for our entire existence. We have fought everything, including ourselves. He pulled on black gloves. The rock think they are predators. They have never met a species that hunts predators for sport. Hana watched her husband transform before her eyes. The gentle gardener disappeared. The tired diplomat vanished. What remained was something else. Something sharp. Something dangerous. He picked up a weapon. It was black and angular, covered in symbols she could not read. He checked it with movements so practiced they were almost beautiful. His hands did not shake. His eyes did not blink. "You should go to the emergency shelters," he said. His voice was calm. "To calm. Take your father. Take whoever you can save. I will buy you time." "How?" Hana demanded. "How can you buy time against an army?" He looked at her. For just a moment, the coldness faded. The man she knew appeared again, tired and sad and kind. "Hana," he said softly. It was the first time he had used her name without her title. "I told you that I destroyed many things. I told you that I hurt people who cannot be healed. I did not tell you everything." He stepped closer. She could see herself reflected in his dark eyes. "Ah! I was not just a soldier. I was the best. The very best. They sent me to places where armies had failed. They sent me to kill things that would not die. I ended wars by myself because that was easier than losing more lives." He touched her face gently. "I buried that man. I buried him deep because I hated what he was. But he never disappeared. He has been waiting. And now he is awake." An explosion shook the palace. Dust fell from the ceiling. Screams echoed through the halls. Tejo stepped back. The coldness returned. "Do you trust me?" he asked. Hana looked at him. This strange creature who was both monster and angel? This man who planted flowers and killed armies? This husband she had never wanted but could no longer imagine losing? "Yes," she said. "I trust you." He nodded once. "Then stay alive. No matter what happens, no matter what you see, stay alive." He walked toward the door. Hana grabbed his arm. "Will you come back?" "Wait." He paused. "I do not know. Promise me you will try." He turned and looked at her one last time. And she saw it. Behind the coldness and the focus and the ancient violence, she saw love. Small and new and barely formed. "But real, I promise," he said. Then he was gone. Walking toward the fire and the blood and the death. Walking toward war, Hana stood alone in the room, shaking. Outside, the world was ending, and somewhere in the burning night, a fallen star was rising again. Hana did not go to the shelters. She could not. Something held her feet in place. Something made her follow. She moved through the burning palace like a ghost. Smoke filled the halls. Bodies lay on the floor. Vellery guards and servants who had not escaped in time. The rock had already breached the outer walls. She heard gunfire ahead. Human gunfire. The sharp crack of Teo's weapon cutting through the deeper sounds of rock. Weapons. She followed the sound. She found him in the great hall. The place where they had been married. The place where he had bowed too deeply and spoken too softly. He was not bowing now. Hana pressed herself against a pillar and watched. She could not look away. She could not breathe. 20 rock soldiers filled the hall. They were massive creatures, taller than any velour, covered in thick armor made from the bones of their enemies. Their weapons were crude but powerful. Te-Ho stood in the center of them. He moved like water. He moved like fire. He moved like nothing Hana had ever seen. A rock charged at him. Tejo stepped to the side. His weapon flashed once. The rock fell. Another came from behind. Tejo did not turn around. He simply moved his arm backward. A blade she had not seen extended from his wrist. The rock died with a sound like breaking glass. 3 more attacked at once. Tejo dropped low. His leg swept out.
How one fell.
He rose through the second. His hand found a throat. He twisted. The third swung a massive blade. Taeho caught it with his bare hand. The blade cut through his glove. Blood sprayed. He did not flinch. He pulled the rock forward and ended it with a single strike. Hannah watched her husband kill 17 soldiers in less than a minute. He did not fight like the Velori fought. The Velori used distance, strategy, careful plans. Taeho was chaos made flesh. He was inside their reach before they could react. He was behind them before they could turn. He used their size against them. He used their aggression against them. Every movement was perfect. Every strike was death. And his face. His face was the worst part. There was nothing there. No anger. No joy. No fear. Just focus. Pure and terrible focus. Like a machine doing what it was built to do, the last rock fell. Taeho stood alone in a room full of bodies. His armor was covered in blood. Some of it was his own. She could see wounds. A gash on his arm. A hole in his side. Burns across his chest. He should not have been standing. He should not have been alive. But humans did not die easily. Hana was beginning to understand that. More rock came. A second wave. 30 soldiers pouring through the shattered doors. Taeho reloaded his weapon with hands that did not shake. He looked at the incoming horde the same way he had looked at the garden, like it was just another problem to solve. "Stay back," he said without turning. He had known she was there. Of course he had. "Taeho, I will hold them here. The communications array is 2 floors up. If I can destroy it, the rock ground forces will lose coordination. It might give the survivors time to escape. That is suicide. Perhaps," he raised his weapon. "I have survived worse." He ran forward, toward the enemy, toward death. Hannah screamed his name, but he did not stop. She followed. She did not know why. She was not a warrior. She had no weapons. But she could not let him die alone. She watched from doorways and corners as he carved a path through the palace. Every room had more rock. Every hall had more enemies. And Taeho cut through them all. She saw him take a blade through his shoulder. He pulled it out and kept fighting. She saw him get thrown through a wall. He stood up and killed the thing that threw him. She saw him run out of ammunition. He dropped his gun and used his hands. And somehow his hands were worse. Faster. More precise. More deadly? The Velori survivors watched too. Guards who had hidden. Servants who had found shelter. They watched this human fight like a force of nature. They watched him bleed and break and refuse to fall. One guard whispered to another, "We called him weak. We called him tamed," the other replied. "We were fools." Taeho reached the communications room. It was guarded by a rock captain, a creature twice his size with 4 arms and armor that seemed invincible. Hana watched from the stairs. She saw Taeho face the captain. She saw them circle each other like animals. The captain laughed. It was a terrible sound. "Little human," it said. "You fight well. But you are alone. Your fleet is gone. Your allies have fled. You have already lost." Taeho said nothing. "What are you?" the captain demanded. "What kind of creature fights when there is no hope?" Taeho smiled. It was not a nice smile, human, he said. Then he attacked. The fight was brutal. The captain was stronger. The captain was bigger. The captain had weapons built into its very body. But Taeho was faster. And smarter. And he simply would not stop. The captain hit him. He fell. He got up. The captain cut him. He bled. He kept fighting. The captain broke his arm. He fought with the other one. Finally, Taeho found an opening. A gap in the armor near the throat. He drove his blade forward with every ounce of strength he had left. The captain fell. Taeho stood over the body, swaying. His armor was destroyed. His body was broken. Blood poured from wounds too numerous to count, but he was alive. And the communications array was in front of him. He reached for the console. His fingers found the controls. "Emergency beacon activated," a mechanical voice announced. Signal transmitted. Hannah did not understand. He was not destroying the array. He was using it. What did you do? She asked, running to his side. He collapsed against the console. His breath came in short, wet gasps. Called my people, he said. The human fleet. They are 2 hours away. They will come. 2 hours. Can we survive 2 hours? He looked at her. His eyes were fading, but he smiled. The gentle smile she knew. The smile of the man who planted flowers. I will make sure you do. He tried to stand. He fell. She caught him. You cannot fight anymore, she said. You will die. Maybe, he admitted. But I promise to try. Outside, more rock were coming. She could hear them in the halls. Getting closer, Tay-Ho pushed himself up. His broken arm hung useless. His legs shook. But he stood. Stay behind me, he said. Hannah grabbed his good hand. No, I am staying beside you. He looked at her with something like wonder. Then he laughed. A small, broken laugh. My wife, he said, you are braver than you know. The doors burst open. More rock poured in, and together. A broken human and an alien princess faced the darkness. 2 hours had never felt so long. The human fleet arrived like thunder from the stars. Hannah saw them through the broken window of the communications room. Hundreds of ships tearing through space, gray and ugly and brutal. The most beautiful thing she had ever seen. The rock fleet tried to regroup. They failed. The human ships cut through them like knives through paper. Explosions bloomed across the sky. Rock vessels fell like burning rain. On the ground, human soldiers dropped from the clouds. They wore black armor like Teho's. They moved with the same terrible precision. The rock ground forces, already confused by the loss of their communications, crumbled under the assault. Hannah held her husband's body as the battle raged around them. He had fought for 2 hours. 2 impossible hours. Wave after wave of rock had come through that door, and he had stopped them all. Even when he could no longer stand, he had crawled. Even when his arms gave out, he had bitten and kicked and headbutted. He had promised to keep her alive. He had kept his promise. Now he lay in her arms, barely breathing. His eyes were closed. His skin was cold. She could feel his heart beating, but slowly. Too slowly. Please, she whispered. Please do not leave me. A human medic found them. Young face. Steady hands. He looked at Teho and his expression went pale. Colonel Kong, the medic, breathed. The Lion of Busan? I thought he retired. Help him? Hannah demanded. Save him. The medic worked quickly. Injections, bandages, machines that beeped and hummed. Other medics arrived. They lifted Teho onto a stretcher. He should be dead, one said. Anyone else would be dead. He is not anyone else, said another. He is human. They carried him away. Hannah followed. She did not let go of his hand. The battle lasted 6 more hours. The rock fought desperately, but they were outmatched. The human-Valori alliance, born from a wedding no one believed in, became a force the rock could not overcome. When the last rock ship fled into the darkness, a cheer rose across Seraphor. Valorian humans together. Celebrating survival? Celebrating each other? Ha-Na did not celebrate. She sat beside her husband's bed in the human medical ship and waited. He slept for 3 days. The doctor said his body needed time to heal. They said the damage was extensive. They said he was lucky to be alive. Hannah knew luck had nothing to do with it. On the 4th day, he opened his eyes. She was there. She had not left. She had barely eaten or slept. But she was there. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he smiled. That familiar, gentle smile. Hello, wife, he said. His voice was rough and weak. Hello, husband, she replied. Her voice cracked. He reached up and touched her face. His hand was wrapped in bandages. His fingers trembled, but his touch was warm. You stayed, he said. Of course I stayed. Tears ran down her cheeks. Where else would I go? He closed his eyes. I thought you would be afraid of me now. After what you saw? Hana took his bandaged hand in both of hers. I am afraid, she admitted. I am afraid of losing you. I am afraid of what would have happened if you had not been there. I am afraid of the darkness in you. She paused. But I am not afraid of you. Never of you. He opened his eyes again. They were wet. I thought I had buried that part of myself, he said. I thought I could leave the violence behind and become something new. Something clean. You did become something new, she said. You became gentle. You became kind. The violence was not who you are. It was what you carried so others did not have to. He stared at her like she had given him the greatest gift in the universe. The weeks passed. Seraphor began to rebuild. Crystal towers rose again from the ashes. Gardens bloomed where fire had burned. The Valorian humans worked side by side, closer now than ever before. The war was not over. The rock would return someday. But for now, there was peace. Real peace. Built on sacrifice and blood and love, Taiho healed slowly. His body had been pushed beyond its limits. Some wounds would never fully close. He would carry scars for the rest of his life. But he was alive. And that was enough. The Valori Council called him a hero. They offered him medals and titles and honors. He refused them all. I did not fight for medals, he said. I fought for her. He looked at Hana. I fought for the chance to plant another garden. Han's father came to visit them one evening. The old emperor looked older now. The invasion had broken something in him. But he carried himself with dignity. He found Tahoe in the garden. The same garden he had tended before the war. Most of the plants were dead now, killed by fire and blood. But Tahoe was planting again. New seeds in scorched earth. I gave you my daughter to prevent a war, the emperor said. I did not expect you to end one. Tahoe did not look up from his work. I did not end anything. I only delayed. The rock will come again. Yes, but next time we will be ready. Because of you? Tahoe was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I am not the hero you think I am. I am just a man who has seen too much death. I fight because I know what happens when no one fights. Not because I am brave, because I am afraid. The emperor nodded slowly. That is the truest form of courage. Fighting despite fear. Choosing violence so others can choose peace. He turned to leave. Then he stopped. Take care of my daughter, he said. She has seen what you are now. The gentle man and the warrior. She stayed anyway. That means something. It means everything, Tahoe replied. That night, Hana found her husband in the garden. The stars were out. 3 moons hung in the sky. The air smelled like ash and flowers. She sat beside him in the dirt, just like she had months ago. Before the war, before everything changed, teach me, she said. He looked at her. Teach you what? How humans find peace after war. You said once that you plant things and watch them grow, that you remember life continues. She took his scarred hand. Teach me, he smiled. That gentle, tired, beautiful smile. It is simple, he said. You take something broken. He picked up a handful of scorched earth. You add something small. He dropped a seed into her palm. And you believe that tomorrow will be better than today. She planted the seed. He covered it with soil. Together, they watered it with water from a cracked fountain. Will it grow? She asked. I do not know, he admitted. But we will be here to find out. She leaned against him. His arm wrapped around her shoulders. They sat together in the ruined garden, watching the stars. I did not want to marry you, she said quietly, I know. I thought you were a monster pretending to be civilized. I know that too. I was wrong. She looked up at him. You are not a monster. You are the bravest, kindest, strangest person I have ever known. He kissed her forehead. And you are the woman I will spend the rest of my life trying to deserve. She smiled. Her first real smile in weeks. Then we should get started, she said. Life continues. And in the distance, beneath the ashes and the pain and the memory of war, a single seed began to grow.